to the BOP, the BLERD official podcast. I am one of your hosts, Karan Ashley. I hope that you are doing well. We are so happy you are here. Let me get my co-host on the stage. Hilton George, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. My hardware is not acting right. It's coming to old age. I need to
Low
call my
budget blues.
AARP rep. I call my AARP rep to see if I can get my old person's laptop with the big numbers on it and
Right.
stuff like that. But I'm doing all right. So that comes. I'm good now. I'm good.
Yes. Well, when this show gets a budget, we'll all get new laptops. How about that?
How about
There you go.
that?
I will promise y'all a new laptop. Miss Christi Renee, how are you doing?
I am fabulous on this lovely, wonderful day. Excited to be here. There were no movie sightings this weekend, so we're gonna whatever we got, whatever you got up your sleeve today. I'm ready.
A lot of people don't know, but I don't really tell you guys that much what we're going to talk about, only because you guys are that good. You guys are that professional.
We're so off the cuff.
Well, and sometimes the conversations need to be that. I think that that's one of the great qualities that we have, is that we're just able to talk and the conversations are always so real. And I love discussing hot topics, especially with you guys. And I got a big hot topic this week.
Let me hold on to my braids. They
Yeah,
falling out.
Get your tea, get your pearls. I mean, guys, we all know for months, this has been a huge story. And I'm not bringing it up because they're famous, but it's something that really, I think as a community, we need to talk about and we need to think about. But we've been watching Kim Kardashian and Kanye West. We've been watching them go through their, divorce. And we've seen him. We know that he's had some mental health issues. And I feel like, things every week seem to be escalating. And we've seen, on his behalf, we've seen, online mental breakdowns. We've seen, cyberbullying. Mm-hmm. He's done a video where he is pretending to kill the man that she is now dating. I mean, it is outrageous.
Who is a high profile, by the way. I mean,
exactly.
It's not like...
Exactly. And there's a lot of things. There are a lot of layers to this, because you'll read comments. People are so in full support of this man. And we've talked about, I know people have always talked about women being abused and abuse issues and just the harshness of a divorce. But I don't think a lot of people are recognizing this. There's a good segment of people who aren't recognizing this as abuse. He'll post a video where he's, berating her. Mm-hmm. He's talking crazy. He's praying. Going through a whole stream of emotions, and he'll get over 1 million likes. He'll get over hundreds and thousands of comments, and they're all over the place. And so I wanted to talk because, there's so many layers to this. So many layers to this. What is your first, let's just talk initial reactions. We've all been watching it. We've all seen it, and this doesn't have anything to do with being a fan of hers or being a fan of his this is a man, a woman, and this breakdown of a relationship that's happening on social media. What is your initial reaction to all of this? And we'll kind of peel back these layers. Hilton, I'll let you go first.
Well, I think there's several things that's going wrong here. One is the incestuous nature of Hollywood and how everybody is kind of, swinging in the same circles, if you will. And, so there's no opportunity to bring in somebody that isn't known or isn't famous in a lot of the same ways as everybody else. You're swinging in these small circles where everybody kind of knows everybody, which heightens the sensitivity. And then you got this of, mental health that, is not being addressed on Kanye's part specifically. And I think it's because you have someone who is so powerful, who is so rich, who is so famous. He doesn't answer to anyone. There are no consequences for him to allow his mental illness to run rampant without medication, without therapy, as you and I would. We gotta work around people who, who will chop us in the neck if we're not doing what we're supposed to do. So we have checks and balances as relatively normal people, right? Kanye doesn't have that. And with Twitter and with TikTok and with the mediums that he has as an artist, he can take this abuse, he can take this outreach, he can take this this stalking to a level that the average disgruntled boyfriend or husband couldn't do. And he's also got enough money to stalk in ways that nobody else can do. Like he bought a house right up the street, so he could, what ex is doing that? You're the average person breaks up, and you split, and it's not $1 billion going in two separate directions. It's got $30 this way, $50 that way. Nobody's buying a house so they can spy on you and stuff. And then he's doing this crazy stuff where he's dating a lookalike of Kim.
Gosh,
and then he's hitting up Pete Davidson. And if anybody doesn't know who Pete Davidson, he's a writer and performer on Saturday Night Live. He's done a lot of movies, but he's also made his rounds in Hollywood and the music industry, dating women that a lot of folks consider to be way out of his league, which is kind of the curiosity with this guy. So all of this kind of just jumps on, into one big bucket. And you've got fame, and you got money, you got mental illness, you've got jealousy, and you've got the media that's kind of hyping it up, and it's just a recipe for destruction.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it reminds me a lot of, I hate bringing this man up, but this is someone that Kanye seems to idolize, the former president. He is another person who is suspected of alleged mental illness, has no one to answer to, is just running amok. We had 4 years of just things that we'd never seen. I'd never seen people get bashed on social media by a sitting president in my life. And it's almost like it's the same thing that's happening, but this is happening, obviously, it's happening with Kanye. Christi, what was your initial reaction to all of this? Because it's so layered, and I know you're the only person who has been, you've mentioned you've gone through a separation, a divorce before. You're the only one on the panel who's had to deal with something like that. How triggering is it for you? Because I know these kind of things. I mean, this stuff is triggering me in ways that I didn't expect.
Yeah. Very triggering. My initial response and reaction was, well, first, I'm always just annoyed. I mean, I'm not a fan of either of the two people. I once was, long time ago, of just one, Kanye. I loved his first album. Like after that, and then sadly, I feel like after his mother passed away, he just got lost in all of the mix and the cracks and all those things. He has truly deteriorated. Here now, again, could have always been there, but I think that is truly a breaking point for a person. So as of late, and well, since then, I just have not been, and then of course you mentioned the former person, chief of the country. I
don't even want to refer to him.
Yeah, we don't.
Former president. I know it's like I don't even count those years.
He who shall not be named.
The former assistant manager of the 7-Eleven that you don't like.
I'll say Voldemort before I say that. So I because of that whole support, like it's just a mess. So and again, not sadly, but factually, I was just never really a fan. I'm not a Kardashian follower. However, when the abuse began to break out, and when this whole separation and everybody's so supposedly moving on, I had to remove myself from that. Well, I don't care about either one of them, and then realize, but it's bigger than just them. It's what they're promoting out into the universe. And she's under fire right now. I've even done a TikTok in response to her madness that she is promoting with whoever it is. She has it was in Vogue magazine or something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, Vanity Fair, talking about working class women. I'm like, whoa, slow your roll, because the kind of work that made you famous, I'm not sure that's what we trying to do.
You know what, though? I want to talk about that after.
I know. I know.
I'm trying a different take on it.
I'm gonna try to keep that real quiet right now. But just knowing, even that, I had to separate how I felt about that and think, you know what? But this abuse is dangerous. It's just dangerous. It's dangerous on so many levels because he is promoting to an audience that doesn't know how to separate. They don't. I feel like he's doing what he can to remain relevant, but somebody will snatch him off the ledge. But if you got 1 million followers that are liking the bull that you're putting out, nobody's there to really snatch them off the ledge. And domestic abuse is so high in this country alone. And this is a country where we don't, force women to wear certain things or be a certain way based on religion or, politics or stuff like that. So we have a little, and I'm not saying we completely free. I'm saying we have a little bit more freedoms than most in other countries, other places in the world, that you are promoting. Literally, it's domestic abuse. It's like a domestic abuse campaign in promotion of that, and that he can control and psychologically affect this woman in her life. And it's the people that don't have the money or the fame or whatnot to help filter some of the bull crap. So it's just it runs rampant in this country. And yes, I know firsthand. And it's like that's just a nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, I think what it is, I mean, you brought up domestic abuse, and obviously he's not physically harming her, but I think it brings up the topic of there are different ways to abuse a person, whether it be, because this happens with men and this happens with women. I've seen men go through the same situation where a woman is stalking them, calling their job, doing this, I mean, it's like almost like a daily hunt. And now that we have social media, it always shocks me when people put things on social media or they have these like public outcries. And we talked about this on the show before, where it's almost like you lose me the minute you bring up, the minute you post it on Facebook or the minute you post it on Instagram, I'm gone. I don't even like, you have, like, if you couldn't pick up the phone and tell me this, or you couldn't, text me, like there's so many ways we can communicate these days. But if the only way that you decided to talk to me was to post a video or to talk about it online, then I know it's not about the argument. It's about the attention that you need through this.
Exactly.
Through this, whatever it is you're going through.
Right.
But again, it brings up the layers of, like I said, I was reading comment after comment after comment, because he does kind of this, Sean King, I don't know if you guys follow him, but he explained it, I thought, really well. He says, you notice he'll Kanye will go on a tangent. He will be angry, upset, and he's attacking. Then the next, within a few hours, he will, seem to talk about his kids and be more like, I'm fighting for my family. I'm fighting for my kids. I'm fighting for this. Then he kind of switches to God and he starts to pray and he starts to do all these other things. Then he'll delete the post, whatever it was that he put out on her. Like if he posted what she said, if he posted, a rant towards her, if it was whatever he did to harm her, he'll delete it. And then a few days later, he'll do something artsy and something cool. Like he'll put a song out, or he'll put out a video, or he'll do something to distract. But then the cycle starts again. And it's like almost like this, and I've never talked about it publicly, but I lived in a household where someone was mentally abusive, physically abusive towards my mother. So it's like triggering in ways that I have never, ever.
He's a sociopath.
This is someone who's going through cycles of manic depression and bipolar disorder. And it is the one direct parallel. If you know enough people online, or if you have enough friends that are, going through the struggle of mental illness, and you have seen them go off the meds. And I've had friends and associates who their insurance changed because they lost their job, and then they weren't able to go to therapy, and they were no longer able to get their prescriptions covered. And it's a cycle, and you go through these highs and lows and departures from reality to super grounded, and I listen, I got people that I have watched, on one hand, they will go on a rant where they're, posting, tear felt pleas of, please, and then that'll go away, and then the next thing they'll be super in love with their significant other and post, and then they'll be like, the next minute it's like, I'm going to get my master's and I just signed up for DeVry and I'm gonna take my car apart, put it back together all in the same day. Yeah,
literally,
great.
Literally.
And you're just sitting there watching this cycle, And I made a post on my social media, just kind of observing, because it wasn't just the Kanye thing. I actually have, like I said, I observe it out here in social media, is that your manic mind is writing checks that your depressive mind can't cash.
Yeah.
And you go into these manic phases where you're like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to get my real estate license and I'm going to apply for 4 jobs and I'm going to reconcile with my abusive ex and I'm going to go and shoot, a model shoot, and I'm going to build a cosplay. I'm going to do all this stuff. Then 2 weeks later, all of the stuff that you set out on is setting down and your high is gone. And what we're watching with Kanye is that same cycle, except the lows can only go so low because he is super rich and he is surrounded by sycophantic people who are like, no, you good, man. No, you straight. It's not you, it's them, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nobody there to really check him. So he's really able to spin out of control. And this is the only difference. I mean, he's going through the same cycle as anybody with an unchecked mental illness. He just doesn't have the buffers on either side of the road. There's no island or curb here to stop his car from careening left and right. And what I worry about is that because he's so famous and because he occupies this 2006 mindset that we remember him from, The Dropout, and as a super talented artist, and we're letting him get away with stuff.
Yeah,
that's ultimately going to end up exacerbating the situation because it's all funny and it's all cannon fodder on TMZ and World Star and yada yada until he shows up at her door. We saw this happen with OJ. Well, I take it back. We didn't see this happen with OJ because we didn't have social media back then.
Right.
But
we'd heard reports of his abuse towards her.
People heard what they wanted to hear back then because, we didn't have, social media just hitting us. But, we know how wrong these situations can go. And we can't allow our sense that, there's a lot of control. She's got security and he's got a lot of eyes on him and he's only going to go so crazy because he's famous and blah, blah, blah. And it's fun to watch people fighting at 30,000 feet, the people we worship. And then one day he just pops out the bushes and does something stupid. And then we're all like clutching our pearls and going, oh my God, how could this have happened?
Right.
When, somebody should have put him in a headlock and been like, look, dude, you gotta get this under control.
You bring up a very good point. Someone did confront him, which was, I feel like I literally this week have been I was reading comments and when you follow certain people, like the people you follow, you'll see their comments before you'll see others, or you'll see that they like something. And I saw one of my nephews like his post and then get in there and it's like, you need to fight for your family. I'm a dad and I had to, and I'm just like, I picked up the phone and called him so fast.
Okay.
And was like, hold up, bruh. Like what you went through was, you called your lawyer. You guys settled that in court. Kanye has the money, the means, and the resources. If he's not seeing his kids on a regularly scheduled time, all he has to do is call his lawyer. They will be in a courtroom that next week and they will look at what the custody and who's fulfilling the custody obligations, who is not. He doesn't have to get on social media and pray and cry and this is not. And like after we talked, he was like, you're absolutely right. I don't know. I think I just got caught up.
Oh, you got one of them cousins that listen? I got some cousins I need you to talk to because I got something.
I don't know. He listened today.
I need somebody to bring
Right. He literally, because I told him, I said, this is the thing, because his was actually the opposite, where he wasn't being allowed to see his kid. He wasn't allowed to, like, the person would play games. They were supposed to meet at 5:00. 5:00 would come and go. He'd have to hunt them down. He'd go for months without seeing his child. And he had to go to court in order to make sure that those custody, obligations were being fulfilled, especially since he was paying child support. So it's one of those situations where his situation is totally different. I said, I said, you have to really look at this. Like, he is really stalking this woman. I don't care if you like her, don't care how she made her money, don't like what she says, don't like what she stands for. She's still a woman that deserves to be listened to and deserves to be protected. And I don't understand why we always seem to make excuses. Like, I've seen us make excuses for crazy baby mamas. We've made excuses for crazy baby daddies. And this is kind of something that we just allow to go unchecked. It's almost like if he's not hitting you in your face, it really isn't abuse. It's not that much of an abuse.
You just said it. You said it.
You
right
know
there.
what I'm saying?
Listen,
it's almost like we put a limit to where the abuse starts. And I'm like, no, it's abuse.
It is. And
he's just yelling at you. Oh, you need to
and here's the thing.
Let
me just read this real quickly. You know, according to the United States Department of Justice Office on Violence Against Women, the definition of domestic violence is a pattern of abusive behavior in any relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain control over another intimate partner. Let me tell you how simple abuse boils down to.
Yeah.
If you're in a space in the same vicinity and you block a person, you simply stand in the doorway to prevent a person from moving. That's definitive abuse. Yeah. It's so many levels to it. And and when I say, I shouldn't say levels, I should say there's so many facets, really, because they're all lateral, honestly. I mean, the problem is, you're right. We put more value, or we put more impact or effect on whether or not someone has a black eye or a broken tooth, versus you prevented someone from leaving a space that was volatile. They felt in danger. They felt whatever, but they wanted to, for whatever reason, when a person wants to move just from one space to another in an intimate setting, you cannot do that. And that constitutes abuse. But we live in a society that is, first of all, so microwave and so dramatic, and you know, it's so skewed. Our whole understanding of how systems work and how what optics are, and we're so easily fed by, again, social media does not help. It's not social media itself, it's what we do with it. And
it's intoxicating when you can get you can put something on there and 100,000 200,000 people go, oh my gosh, it's intoxicating. It doesn't matter if it's something that has to do with this, or if you put up a picture and 1,000 people like your picture and go, girl, you looking good, girl. It's intoxicating. It's a double-edged sword for sure.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, you get endorphins from this. There's been studies to show what happens when you get a like on social media, but I think it goes a little deeper into the issues in the Black community, and you know, the way in which we do not recognize mental health as real health, and we don't recognize abuse as real abuse. And this is playing out in public because you have this split amongst, you know, on social media. It's being demonstrated there, but it's a real split in our community about, you know, hey, you know, this guy, he's fine. He loves Jesus and his mama raised him right. He ain't gonna do nothing. He's no thug. He's not gonna kill anybody, blah, 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 blah. She's just tripping. She's just clout chasing, blah, 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 you know, taking sides on who's right and who's wrong. And
she's controlling
should she be dating Pete Davidson, or should she, you know, be more discreet? And, you know, we're talking about all the wrong stuff, but this is the same way in which we deal with our cousins and our family and our neighbors and our friends who are like being abused, who are being controlled, who are being manipulated, and they're in relationships that they can't get out of, or they're suffering in. And well, Johnny's cool with me, you know. He done nothing to me.
Oh, I've heard it all.
I don't know that.
We will explain it away.
You're not describing.
I've heard,
you know,
it
and we don't know Kanye, but we know his music, and we just saw this documentary on Netflix that they cast him in a fairly favorable light.
Well, you see,
and, you know, there's people who, you know,
you see the softer side of him, you know, which I'm sure there is. We're not saying he's a monster. We're just saying there's something deeply wrong with this man. He is you know, but that
well,
the
situation
documentary I felt was
dangerous.
a little, I felt like the documentary is a little bit of a distraction because they've been having this documentary for quite a while. And all of a sudden we're getting all this footage of his mom loving on him and building him up. And you see the young man pounding the pavement, trying to get someone to listen to his demo tape. And, he was a successful producer, but they weren't taking him serious as a rapper. So you get all these people who, again, fall in love with this artist, and you forget that is a man that's 30 years ago. That's 25 years ago. Whenever this went, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
She said 30. It was in there with flip phones, so I know it was old. I was like, wait a minute, that's not yesterday.
You also get people who will make excuses and go, well, he lost his mother, and since he lost his mother, his mental illness seems to have spiraled. But think about this. People aren't even bringing this part up. Pete Davidson lost his dad in 9/11. Can you imagine how triggering this is for him to be dating a woman and having her ex-husband, basically saying, I'm going to send someone out to get you. He's had to beef up his security. He's making videos, pretending to kill you, like bury you alive, not just kill you, but kill you violently. And it's like, can you imagine how triggering this is for him? A man who had a father who was running up the stairs trying to save people in 9/11 and the building fell. And you're making a video about him being buried alive. Like, that is so crazy.
It is crazy.
Pete is handling this a lot better than a lot of people. I think he has worked through a lot of his issues.
He's gone to therapy.
He's gone to therapy. He's
taken
his medications. He's even incorporated some of his process into the movies. He just did the movie The King of Staten Island, which kind of plugs into that father, who was a fallen, hero, fireman, and that kind of stuff. So if you look at how he's reacting, he's in the boxing match. But he's more like, hey, dude, listen, I've been there. My mental health is spiraled out of control. I've been in these desperate situations, but, you need to get therapy. You need to get help because you're hurting your brand. You're hurting your family. You're hurting your kids. This is not the way. You ain't got to like me. You ain't got to treat me nice. He even just he released a couple of screenshots. He was talking about how, hey, I have been protecting you behind the scenes because, man, they are trying hard to get you roasted on Saturday Night Live. And I have squashed a lot of skits about you losing it that have people wanted to put out there because I didn't want the mother of your kids to look bad and my current woman, as he stated, to get hurt in this melee. So I'm treating you civilly, even as you're attacking me. And, I'm just like, okay, so Pete is at least on the right page. But
he's done his work. You can tell. And he even said, it's funny because you brought up, he did a skit like years ago. This is way before he ever dated her. Like they did a skit on Kanye and they basically were saying, like, he was like, dude, take your pills. There's nothing wrong with mental health. And I think this was after that first time he kind of went off at TMZ. And they did a whole thing. And he was like, I take pills. It's no big deal. Trust me, you don't want to feel like this. You want to be better. You want to feel good. And it was brilliant. And then you fast forward 4 or 5 years later, he's embroiled in this thing. Yeah. But you know what? You brought up, someone checking this man. Like, he obviously doesn't have people around him who are going to even say, dude, this is, you're messing with,
which is crazy.
You could lose your custody of your kids doing these things. Like, if you were wanting to get your family back, this is the worst way to get them back,
Yeah.
And DL Hughley, obviously, everybody knows he talked about it on Vlad TV and basically said, and but I love the fact that a Black man said, this is abuse. This is wrong. You guys, he's stalking this woman. Yep. And he got backlash. Obviously there were women who praised him, but he got backlash. And what happens? Kanye loses it. He starts threatening him and his family, putting his address out there, saying, I'm going to send some goons. It was like, and literally this man could, I just think it's so
That's
crazy.
Yeah, and it's funny because
physical violence.
Someone said this. They're basically saying that DL was built for this online fight. You don't want to
Yeah,
have
he was.
this fight with DL.
There's certain
Everybody
people
else
you don't
is
want to
kinda-
argue with.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
He's not the one you want to run the dozens with. And his response to that he's like basically saying that, Kanye's got these goons that'll kill for him, but won't go fill his prescriptions. And
That part.
he just really just
Right
boiled
there.
it down to where the fight is.
Wait.
And as a comedian, as a radio host, as a Hollywood star, this guy is going to constantly go right to the point. He's not taking any of this personally. He's from, Southside. He's not scared of Kanye or anybody who he might send. And, so he's going to tell it like it is. And
I just want to highlight that one part again. Yeah. You ain't no real goon if you ain't going to fill that prescription for your for your mans, for your boss, for your guy.
Right.
If you ain't gonna get your dudes pills, you are not a real goon. That's a real goon right there. You gonna go sit in that CVS line.
Yeah, what was surprising because like you said, he called those people who were supposed to come after him and said, "Get your boy on the phone. Get your boy." Like DL called him.
Yeah, he was not for the shit.
And he was like, I listened to him for 15 minutes and he's ranting and raving, and then I told him like, "Dude, really, you're threatening my family?" But that's the other thing that I feel like you're right. Pete Davidson handled it so well. He was like, "Let's talk." Man to man, I'm at this hotel. Come see me. Exactly.
He's incapable.
Most bullies can't.
And he's convinced. I mean, when you think about, let's look back at where he was, in the 2016 through 2020 era, which was the nightmare in the US. Think about that mindset. Like he is so caught up in a world where you could just do anything and nobody cares. We actually elected a mofo that said Republicans are so dumb. I could stand in the middle of 5th or 4th Avenue, whatever, 5th Avenue, and shoot somebody in the head and they'll still make me president.
I know. It's crazy.
That's the world we live in, and that's the crowd he runs with. That's who the hell he rock with. So listen, at some point, yes, not a fan of Kim. I have said this and I say it with pride. I am not. And we ain't never going to be besties or none of that. However, at the end of every day.
If you ever met her, she's actually really nice.
And
she's really cool person.
She ain't got no reason to be nothing but nice. That woman was born rich, famous for no reason. I'll be nice too.
Listen. I
always go, you know what I will always go to bat because this is the thing. No. We know a lot of like social media stars and social who have had some things that put them on. They got their 15 minutes of fame. They were able to bleed it and milk it. I will always say, I respect her because she runs a full-fledged, you don't get to $1 billion by not running a successful business. She changed the game with that social, with being a reality star. Everybody and their mama wants a reality show because of what they've been able to do. They could think about it. They were able to build a show. And it came from, her initial, the way we kind of found out about her was from the sex tape. But guys, she hasn't rested on that sex tape. How many people do we know?
But
How many girls do we know?
But she took millions of dollars with you. If I had 10 million or 100 million or access to millions and billions, I promise you, I'm gonna be successful.
Yeah, I agree. But think of all the millionaires or people who are heiresses or people who've come from money and they haven't built a business. Her Skims business is whole. I mean, people are wearing those body garments. She's putting Spanx out of business. And Spanx is, I don't know about you guys, but bras and panties and those things, those undergarments sell like hotcakes. She got swimming suits. She's got
I wouldn't know personally, but I know that
they
that's
do.
a safe
Trust me, I'm wearing
some. Well, but the thing about shifting gears, I guess we're doing. The thing about Kim is that she also had a mom who immediately pivoted because it was the Hiltons that were the it people out there, and so in what was social media back then, being out on the paparazzi and kind of riding that towards some type of a new type of fame. She was actually Paris Hilton's kind of sidekick. She really wasn't in the limelight.
They went to school together, high school together.
They went to school together. She would be the one walking behind her, carrying her bag, whatever. But then when the tape came out, you know, her mom was like, okay, you know what, this is, it can be embarrassing. This is something it's gonna make us look bad, yada yada yada. But it's also an opportunity. So I'm gonna put this framework out here that when all this garbage comes shooting out, we're gonna channel it. Because at the end of the day, you know, we judge her and we judge what she did and what she participated in. But at the same time, we don't really hate her for that. Like, that's not like something that we as a people like ultimately say, you're a bad person, you're part of the decay of Western society. And they channeled that at a very critical moment, because if they had let that fame kind of sunset, she'd be where Paris Hilton is now, which is, I don't know where. Neither do you.
Oh, she there.
Knows, right?
Oh, she out there.
So
she was.
I mean,
she's
in there, but
she just did her late
famous.
night circuits. She's out there. She's still but coming
but
from
she doesn't have the business, and
she's just in a different
front.
She's on a different. She's on a different front. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all.
So that's really where the key was. I mean, she was already rich, and she already had money, and she was born into privilege, and from that had a mom who knew how to kind of take the opportunity and then kind of channel.
I think it was a combination of her and the mom.
It couldn't be us. I'm just saying.
But you know what?
We're not coming back.
That. Yeah, I think that, you know, I think again, it's like what you said. She took that situation. And again, the reason we're talking about this, you have to take her out of the equation when we talk about the abuse and we talk about
different.
The stalking.
That's totally different.
But as like a social media, you know, I mean, gosh, she has really learned, because she was one of the first ones on Twitter who started using her Twitter and started using her Facebook to sell her clothes, sell her perfumes. And then all of a sudden, now you see all of these companies like literally spending hundreds of millions of dollars to do social media ads. And you got to give her credit. You got to give her credit for thinking outside the box. Because I know, like, at one point, a big company wanted to buy her makeup line and she did not sell to them because she was making more money selling it through Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Like, you know, and so you have to think about the framework of that. She really kind of took that approach and reimagined what business is. And you don't have to like her, but I always say you got to give her credit for what she did for social media marketing, what she did. And all these companies are following their blueprint, you know, and that is something that you can't knock the woman for. You don't have to like her business. You don't have to buy her perfume. You don't even have to watch her show. But the reality is that she changed the game. She changed it.
I think she was, I think she's part of the game-changing process. And I just think that she was more digestible. And I don't believe that she was the very first. I don't think she invented that. I just feel like
I don't think she invented it, but I think she
clearly has been incredibly successful with that and made a lot more money than what she already went into the game with. So
$1 billion.
You and I just gonna see it differently. I just
we will. We
we do. But let me, for the record, for the sake of this platform and for the sake of all of us, and as humans, for the sake of humanity, let me make it very clear that we all agree that the abuse situation is completely separate and apart from the business and the success and the blah, blah, blah. The noise. And that's what I'm going to call the white noise. The white noise around her, to me, that's the other side. But the real heart of this issue when it comes to Kim Kardashian, I think I just have to make it plain. I don't want nobody to get confused. She doesn't deserve that.
You're saying the right thing, but I think that our community is still processing trauma and how to look at this, because there's a lot of us that are victim blaming her because of how she dresses or how she presents herself and all this sort of stuff, and it is an ongoing fight, because we're talking. It seems like it's okay. It doesn't cost any of us anything to talk about Kim Kardashian because she's so far above and beyond anybody. But we're having the same conversations about our cousins and our neighbors and our friends, and that, what was she wearing, or why did she even talk to him in the first place? And all, I've seen it all, and we as a community are still trying to figure out where the weak points are, because a lot of people come out and say crazy stuff that we didn't thought crazy stuff, like your cousin.
Yeah.
Karen, there's a lot of it
Yeah.
takes something like this for
Yeah.
us to find out that people that are close to us think
The
a
way
certain
that
way
they
and
think.
say a certain
Yeah.
thing, and we're like, oh my God, I did not know
Well,
you were this person.
take the
And
example.
if this situation didn't happen, we wouldn't know.
Yeah. Let's take Kim Kardashian out of this. Let's move on from that. Think about what happened when Rihanna and Chris Brown had their situation, and how people were like, well, I heard she's feisty and I heard she was fighting him back. So if you hit somebody, then don't be mad if they hit you. Like, I heard so many, she's Caribbean, so they fight over there. Let's get past Rihanna. When you had the Tory Lane and the Meg Thee Stallion thing, and he shoots her in the foot, and people were like, well, what did she do to get shot in the foot? Did he really shoot her, or did his boy shoot her? I mean, it was so many excuses. And I mean, you can go from the Chris Brown, Rihanna situation, the Meg Thee Stallion, the Kanye Kim, you can go up and down the list. And as a community, we are always trying to backpedal and explain the behavior of these men who are abusing women, period. And we do it even just the woman next door. Like, if you hear somebody arguing, you hear people fighting, we always, as a community, seem to accept, and this is not just the Black community. You can put the Mexican community in that, because I'm half Mexican, and trust me, I've seen it on both sides, and it's shocking. But we will explain, the woman who was beat by her husband and stayed with him for 50 years and have a big old party celebrating their 50th anniversary, and she's been in hell in her marriage, It's one of those things, but she stayed.
And then people will look at that and be like, they don't make marriages like they used to. And I'm like, yeah, entrapping, disempowering.
Yeah, those are generational. That generational trauma.
Chris, you said the word. That's the word, generational. Because I don't want to make this about. I don't want to add any more celebrity fire to it, but again, the celebrity stuff and the famous people stuff and the rich and powerful stuff is what triggers some of the conversations that we have, because we all don't know my cousin Lenny fighting with his wife and all this stuff. So it's like
everybody has a cousin Lenny that fights with his wife,
right? And we all got on our high horse about Bill Cosby in one way or another, and we said what we said. And then you figure like, oh, we're all singing off the same hymnal here. Like, okay, we're on the same footing, until you run up on, like, for instance, I ran up on a Black woman who was from a previous generation, thinking that this was somebody that would be sympathetic to my point of view. It's like, oh, this guy, has been doing this for decades, sexual assault, da, 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 da. And then she was like, the women knew what they was doing. And I was like, whoa. I'm like, hold up. Like,
why did it take her so long? Why did it take her 20 years to say so? And I'm like,
right, why did it took her so long? And you go to somebody's house, what you doing taking pills, and why you drinking a drink that you didn't make, and why you going to somebody's house at 3 a.m? And it was just doom, da doom, da doom, da doom. And I was just like, wow, like you're thinking that our logic and the way we think, in the public, in the public square is kind of the consensus. And then the least likely people, I'm talking to somebody like, you're a Black woman, of a certain age, I figured that you might be like, finally somebody is coming out, because at me coming from a generation where this stuff was common and nobody had a voice, I'm so glad to see people expressing their voices. And then to be on the other side of that argument, I'm just like, wow, like, we really are not a monolith. There are conversations that we have to have with people we didn't think we had to have it with, in order to hash out some of these issues. And then it plays out like here's it is. The attitude that you might have to a Bill Cosby situation may be something you could say is academic. You don't know her, you don't know him, you just projecting out there to the sky, until your niece come to you and say she was sexually assaulted, or somebody touched her in an inappropriate way, somebody was abusing her emotionally. That is the same response. It's the same thing. It's the same mindset. Well, what were you doing over his house, and what were you wearing, and why were you there at such and such a time? And, didn't somebody tell you he was trouble? You didn't listen. Well, there you go. And we make excuses. It's not just one way. So it is, it's an ongoing discussion. It is something that we need to work
deep.
on. Every now and then we got to be reminded that, we haven't made all the progress we think we have.
And I think it's easy to say, that some things warrant, higher attention or impact or effect. But it's really in all of the scenarios we just talked about and brought up, there are two sides to every coin, and those coins still spin. So it is one of those things where it's almost like you have to piecemeal and see, you know, what sticks for you, I guess, fundamentally. And a lot of times there were things I just back away from. I don't really put my opinion out because, again, it's so sorted. Like, who really knows all the facts of every single thing? It's very difficult. And if we're gonna trust science, you know, that's what experiments do. That's what they are. It's like, but you got to get it's evidence based. It's tested. It's got to be proven. It's got to be, you know, but you have all these variables, and so that's kind of the only way you can really get down to like a scientific fact. And that's impossible. I wasn't in the room when a lot of things have happened and it's impossible, but it's so hard to figure out where you fit on the spectrum of opinion. And I think we get in trouble when we jump the gun or jump the whatever and just spout, and we just spew we just go and we make it so public, and it's like, oh, back up just a little bit from the tiny mic, because you could really,
everybody got a tiny mic.
Listen,
and you're talking about just being like social media and just airing your dirty laundry.
I'm talking on both sides.
On
both sides. I feel like if you put out a bunch of stuff. So one thing is, if you show up in that space, I just did a video about this the other day. If you show up in certain spaces, be prepared, honey. Be prepared for all of the whatever comes back at you. But I also feel like those of us who value our position in the world, our position in our respect for humanity, you're going to pay a little bit more attention to how you respond. Like, I can't react to everything publicly. Not because I'm afraid of any pushback or whatever. It's just because I understand I may not understand everything. I understand that I don't know.
That's big. That's very big.
And that's where that's where the slippery slope comes in, because we again, everybody's quick to jump on the bandwagon. We're just we live in a microwave, and it's right now it's instant. Some people are completely gratified by giving their opinion, by stating this ain't right. It's so many issues going on. We've got transgender issues. We got constant racial issues going on. We've got women issues. We got political issues. People are we're just intoxicated with giving our opinion about everything in these big spaces. And, you know, if you ever amount to anything, that shit can come back and get you. It will bite you all in your booty. And it's like, now what?
Well, Chris, you also understand. Chris also understands, as Karan does. You know, you guys both are public people. You know, you are not just talking to your nephews or your kids or your coworkers. You know, you have a megaphone, and we understand that the algorithm, you know, works in a certain way too. And I think there's a whole class of people on social media who understand that. They're like, okay, look, if I make reasoned arguments, if I make nuanced analysis about, you know, even hot button issues, the algorithm is not going to reward that. I got to throw something out there that's going to piss off half of the people on the internet and it's going to drive crazy the other half, because nobody agrees with me, you know, to one degree or another. But I have to be singular. I have to be loud. I have to be first. So I got to react to stuff and not respond to stuff. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And so you get a lot of people out there, like, situation of like breaking news 30 seconds later, think piece. Like, whoa, how you got to think piece about something that happened 30 seconds ago?
Something that just happened.
You know, we ain't got no video. You know, it's like with this. I'll give you an example. Okay, we all kind of have an idea about this Jussie Smollett thing, right?
Oh yeah,
so
I have that on my list. We can talk about that. Bring it in.
The analysis of that has taken years. This is something that happened almost 3 years ago. We've seen it play out in court. We've seen witnesses. We've seen, you know, people telling different narratives. We've seen, you know, the presentation of evidence over the course of 2 years. But there were people, the minute it happened, And you kind of saw this with Dave Chappelle, like justice for Jussie. Like they really had the picket signs, and they were out there. They were ready to go out there and fight this fight because this is an attack on the LGBT community. Da 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 da. And again, I think there's some folks of us who were listening to the story and it didn't quite ring right. And instead of us reacting in the opposite, a lot of us chose, I'm going to sit back and wait for some more information to come out. And the more information came out, we're like, okay, that, this don't sound right. That don't sound right.
Well,
and now we are where we are.
Yeah. So, you know what was interesting about that whole case? And I honestly have that on my list because I was like, we got to talk about that. We got to talk about what's going to happen. It just keeps getting like, it is like, it's so, I don't want to say salacious, but it is. Like, I've never seen anything like it. Yeah, it's so wild because I think when it first happened and you heard like he was attacked and it was in the midst of all of the racial uproar that this country has been going through, and we were on lockdown, and it was just all this stuff that was happening. And I think for a person like, especially for me, I know people who know him. I don't know him. I've never met him, so I don't speak on him personally because I don't know him, but I know people who know him and they love him. He's they rave about him as a person. They've worked with him for years. But needless to say, it was shocking because you never thought he would lie about something like this. Like, you thought when he said I was attacked, you were like, oh my gosh, like he was attacked. Like, it just was crazy to think that he was attacked, and he, it was possibly a racially motivated attack, probably a attack on a gay man. Like, it was just all these layers, and so you instantly empathized with him. But like you said, Hilton, as the weeks went by and as the stories progressed, and it's funny because when someone and I personally, I will say, I believe that he lied. I'm not, that's just my personal opinion. I'm going by the facts that were presented in the case. I'm going by what I've seen the evidence to be. Doesn't mean that I'm right. Doesn't mean, this is just where I stand on the issue. But as the story kept, it was funny because as he kept telling the story kept getting bigger and bigger and more. Like, you were kind of like, okay, wait, what? They put a noose around your neck. Okay, wait, what? They pour bleach on you. Okay, wait, what? And then the cops were like, we show up and he still has a noose around his neck. And I'm like, I'm sorry, if someone attacked me and put a noose on my neck, the minute I broke free, that thing is coming off of me. I'm not going to walk around with it for 2 hours. Like, I'm not going to, like, there were just certain things. Like, I think it was somebody, like, I forget who the comedian was. He goes, there just started to be too many props in the story.
Yeah.
Like, there were too many things that, and so we all kind of collectively were like, okay, what's happening here? What's happening here?
It's logic. It's just basic common sense.
Why doesn't this make sense? Yeah, it was like, why is the story all of a sudden, this horrific story, all of a sudden not making sense anymore? And then as the facts started coming out, we were like, we were duped. We were duped. And I mean, what sealed it for me, and God bless this man. I hope he gets whatever help he needs. I hope he is able to do his time and put this behind him and continue to his career, because he is a creative and he is, talented. But when they showed the footage of him and the two guys, like, kind of doing a run through, like, kind of going, okay, you're going to meet me here. And you could see what they were doing. I was like, oh man, he done lied to us. We have been duped. Yeah. And I think everyone was just like, damn, and so you don't wish, obviously you don't wish anyone to go to jail. You don't wish anyone, any of this to happen, but it's like, it almost is self-inflicted how this has all progressed, because he was given the opportunity to pay a fine and to, pay the restitution back for the money that was spent on the investigation, because he was caught, lying. Yeah. He chose not to do that. He chose to go to court and roll the dice on whether or not he'd be found guilty or innocent. And what was your reaction, both of you? What was your reaction after he was sentenced, and got his 150 days? And he went through the whole soliloquy of, I'm innocent, and you know, I didn't, and I ain't gonna commit suicide. And I mean, it was like a whole thing. And if you haven't seen the video, look it up. He basically was saying that he was innocent. If anything happened to him in jail, he did not commit suicide. It was just, it was like the theatrics did not stop. Yeah. You know, what was your opinion?
I think he needs to probably he needs to be put into treatment. I don't think jail solves anything in this particular case. Like, we're already overcrowded. It's already a mess. You know, we already have a problem with, you know, these prison situations. So I just don't think anybody needs to go to jail for this. I think that he definitely, you know, some things should be just enforced that requires treatment. He needs some mental health treatment, obviously, because I can think of a laundry list of people who should be in jail for the lies they have told. And that would be the bulk of the country. It wouldn't, you know, so that right there.
Well, that would be all the people who do these false police reports that you know, Black people are trying to kill me, hurt me, and then you show up and they're not doing anything.
Yeah, nothing.
It's just someone who decided to, you know, what do they say? Shopping while Black, walking while Black.
Leaping.
I mean, you know,
barbecue. It was the barbecue that
barbecuing while Black. Like,
walking your dog.
Yeah. And if they didn't go to jail, I'm like, okay, they lied to the police. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I didn't feel like he deserved to go to jail.
When he called the police, no one's life other than his own was in danger, honestly, in today's time. So, because I can call the police right now for something. I don't know if I'm going to live through it because I'm automatically perceived as a threat, right? So if anybody's life is in danger, somebody need to go to jail for telling a lie. Well, he only put his own life in danger because the dudes wasn't around. It was a whole thing. It's just like, you just need help, sir. You need some treatment. You need some therapies. We need to mandate that in your life. Pay the money. And if you have a career after this, which you probably won't, you know, good luck to you. But jail time, I just think that's where it's just the worst. That part I don't agree with, but you got to have something for the fact that you did, even just my emotions. Like,
you can't get that if
you ran us through, honey.
If you don't admit it,
you can't get help. The court can't mandate you get help if you don't admit that you lied. If you're at that stage, like if he admitted it, you know, at some point was like
in jail for all kinds of stuff. They can put your ass in a mental health facility to go get
you know, my take on this whole thing is that we all know somebody like him who's been in a situation where they just lied. The lie got too big, and you just came back.
Got away from it.
This is a guy who didn't just lie to the police. He lied to the television studio.
The world.
He lied to his family. He lied to the LGBT community. He lied to his family and had everybody believing him and supporting him and everything like that. Yeah. This is his world. This is
the
everyone.
Vice president like sent out a message in support of him. Like, I mean, everybody was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry this happened to you."
Exactly. So it wasn't like he just lied to a significant other or a partner or one person here, one person there. Like, he literally put this whole lie together, and he felt like he had to maintain it because the alternate of it was just way too ominous and he wouldn't take that on. But we all know people like that. We have had people caught dead to rights in our lives. Like, I got you on video stealing my money. That wasn't me. You know, there's a whole skit on Eddie Murphy talking about it wasn't me. You know, this is part of our narrative in a certain way, right? So when I watched him, now first of all, I got to admit two things. One, I've got a hella crush on his sister, so I
love Journey. The world,
yeah. Call me, let me know how she's doing because I'm checking on you, girl.
Right, Journey. If you need some assistance,
you gotta call.
Here for you.
This guy got
I'm here to help my sister make it through this tough time. That's what I'm here for. I don't know what everybody else here for.
To hug.
There's a whole other thing. Second, we do need him. We need Jussie to get it together.
Yeah.
Because somebody's got to be ready for the Prince biopic, and ain't nobody playing with this dude. So when the Prince biopic comes out, that's when he's gonna bring him out of. they know. We already know he's who it's gonna be. He's the only one to do it. He can sing, dance. He looked the part. He's not quite as short, but he can make it work.
Right.
If we want Prince on his biopic, it's got to be Jussie. So we need
Jussie is a really good actor. Like, I mean,
clearly,
he's very talented.
Well, but I always say this: like, if you've never seen, Empire was like it's kind of like to me it was kind of like a soap opera. Like, it was like very over the top and very.
I never watched.
If you want to see him do his thing, watch Underground, which is a show that's Journey's show.
Yes.
And he came on as a slave who was mentally ill and had, obviously suffered and was just thinking like, these people are trying to kill me. And he was having basically a mental breakdown and was killing people who were trying to help him. I'm telling you right now, should have been nominated for a best guest star on a series. Like, he literally gave it a performance of a lifetime.
Yeah, he's probably, this is all this is another way to look at it. Listen, this dude is
tell us.
He's preparing. He called me. His people called me and they said he's
allegedly
he's right. He's preparing for the role of his life. Like, this is method acting at its finest. He is going to go into the system. He's going to learn how to be an inmate. And he just has gone, he's probably at home going, I can't believe it took this long to get me to go to jail. So I don't know. I mean, that's just that's a spin. That's a spin I would put on it.
There are people who will believe that.
Intentional.
There's enough people standing for him that if you put it out, the crazier the story, the more people are likely to believe it. There are folks out there that would be like, I knew it. Remember, I told you, Frankie, when I told y'all, and I told y'all he was praying for a role. Now what you got to say? See, I told y'all. There's somebody waiting for that story. So I would put that past. I do hope one of us, especially a sister in film, I hope somebody, gets, once he gets out and gets whatever treatment he needs, I hope that he can still work. I hope because people have come back from worse. I
agree. What I always say, if R. Kelly could come back from that Aaliyah stuff, you could pretty much come back from anything. We all knew what happened with Aaliyah. He went and married her, and we had the paperwork, and people still gave this man another chance, and he had 15 more years of hits.
Yes. Well, Brain was trying to resolve.
I'm trying to tell you.
I'm stepping in the name of love, but I feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Figured out
it. Terrible analogy.
No, but that's the truth. I mean, it's a terrible analogy, but that is the truth about this industry. That's crazy. Honestly, this is the thing. I honestly agree with you, Hilton, where you said he told a lie. And that lie just kept growing and growing and growing. And now he's at a place where I think he's not mentally capable of saying, guys, I messed up, because he's in too deep. He's gone through, he's done too much publicly to plead his innocence. Now he's in too deep. And it's unfortunate because this guy is very talented. He seems like a very, from people that I know, he's a very nice person. But it's like, fame is intoxicating. And I don't know what was happening in his life where he felt like he needed, right? Because people were like, oh, he was on drugs, or he did this, or he did. And I don't even think it took drugs. It took the fame. The fame was the drug that, having this kind of attention, the attention he got for about 2 weeks when we thought he was attacked, randomly attacked, racially motivated attack.
His stock rose.
Our whole, everybody did not want that to happen to anyone. And the fact that we knew someone so high profile that it happened to, I'm sure it was very intoxicating for him to just kind of get that kind of attention, but it's like the wrong attention.
Can I say something? There's also a part of me that's saying to myself, like, okay, if he wanted that kind of attention, he didn't have to lie that to get it.
Right.
If he wanted to get beat up by a bunch of MAGA hat wearing Trump supporters, he could have gone to
the rally.
He could have gone to a rally with an Obama
run through a rally, they'll get you.
and somebody would have threw a punch at him that would have got caught on film, and he could have been one of those people that are just kind of provocateurs, and that would have been the accusation. Well, you went in there expecting to get punched, and we'd be having that argument.
Yeah.
But the story got so fantastical because we are not. And again, I'm not trying to tell people how to lie, but we are not familiar enough with the mindset of the enemy, which in this case were MAGA supporters, to really understand the mentality enough to say the logic just unraveled so quick because it's negative 15 degrees in Southside Chicago in the wintertime, and you're going walking to get Subway sandwiches, and you just bump into some MAGA hat wearing Trump supporters who just happen to have some bleach on hand and a noose, hoping to run into some black people to jump on in the middle of Southside Chicago. None of that adds up. The environment, the all of this stuff. And so the story was just the foundation of it just didn't ring true for a lot of us from the jump, but then it was verified once we got more information. And I'm just like, you know what? If you were trying to make a statement, if you were trying to, draw attention to LGBT issues, racism, whatever it is, there were ways to do it. Even if you was going to do it in a sneaky way,
or even renegotiate your contract, because that was happening at the same time.
You had an opportunity to tell a small story for a big effect, and you went with the space aliens and the Bigfoot came out and kicked me in the shin, and we were just like, okay. At some point we were just
you know what? I think it all kind of I agree with both of you. Then it goes back to what Christi was saying, where he tells this fantastical lie, but there's something in you mentally where you go, I'm going to keep going with this. And that's where you have to check yourself. You got to check your mental health. We all do, where you go, why would I want to continue this lie? Why would I want to get attention this way? There's something going on with me that this is the way that I'm going to get the attention. This is the way that I'm going to stop the world.
Karen,
so they all know my name.
In that situation, I go into the Bojangles drive-thru and they tell me they don't have no more wings, but I stay in that drive-thru anyway.
Oh my God!
Thinking that maybe somebody gonna drop some wings for me by the time I get to that window. This situation is gonna resolve itself. But I end up getting chicken backs and chicken thighs that I didn't order.
Not the chicken backs.
And that's what I end up going home to eat, because I stayed in the drive-thru and I said I just got to stay with it. I got the food I didn't want.
If Jussie wanted to make a point or bring some awareness to his life, he could have just made a sex tape and we'd be, because clearly
oh man,
Chris, no,
it's been done.
We know more sex tapes. We discussed this in the first half.
When I lean in, I'm about to say something, so don't pick up your drink and take a sip. Don't ever.
I missed the lean in.
I get into the mic. Make a sex tape, and then we're just okay.
We at the BOP do not condone sex tapes
we do not.
Just for the record, anyone.
We do not. But what I will say is this. Go ahead, Christi. Say your.
I was just gonna say, but we will if you gonna before you lie about the MAGAs and the nooses and sit around in a noose for 2 hours after the fact. Listen, just make a sex tape. That's all I'm saying. Let's use some logic. Let's just use some logic. If you had to choose the sex tape.
I say no to all the above.
All of it, right?
I say D, none of the above.
None of these answers.
No MAGA hats. No
I'll just continue to work hard. I'll continue to think of new ways to reinvent myself, but not that way. But what I will say, all of you who are watching, thank you for tuning in. If you are I'm going to put some numbers up. If you're in a domestic violence situation or any type of abuse, please call this number. Get yourself some help. If you feel like you are someone who needs some mental health assistance, there's nothing wrong with that. I think at some point in our life, we have all had to check ourselves, and we've all had to go, okay, I need someone to talk to. I need to work these things out. Because I'm always saying they will teach you in school how to read, they'll teach you how to write, they'll teach you how to count, but they won't teach you how to deal with your emotions. They won't teach you how to put out the fires that are in your life. And we all will have something pop off at some point. So,
and if you're connected to somebody who needs more than the yes men or whatever that are around them, write these numbers down, please. Yes.
Or be the person who just says, we got to take a pause here. Something's not adding up for you and you need help. But guys, thank you so much. The whole point of this show is to get us to talk, to get us to think, and to get you to see 3 different points of view, and also then draw your own point of view, because then we know it all. We just have something to say about everything. So tune in next time. We love you. Take care. We are the BOP, the BLERD Official Podcast. See you next time. Bye.